he served for around 4 decades as an Indian Police Service officer. He retired as a DGP in 2012. During his service, he was awarded prestigious awards including the President's Police Medal for long and meritorious services and the President's Police Medal for the distinguished services. He holds the world record for the largest hold of opium made in a year. He also served as advisor to the Honorable Governor of Uttarakhand and is currently a member of the CAG Committee of Uttarakhand. Also the Executive Secretary of the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Dehradun. Mr. Aloke Lal is a well-known painter and photographer and has held many exhibitions across the country. He frequently writes for the print media and has hundreds of articles to spread. The second guest speaker for the day, Mr. Maanas Lal, has acquired a formidable profile as a photographic artist and painter. He has received rave reviews for his works after a number of exhibitions all over the country. A technique of converting images into digital art pieces is his unique forte. Famous authors, industrialists, and builders have lapped up his artworks. Recent collectors of his work include India's best-known football icon Baichung Bhutia, member of British Parliament and business tycoon Lord Karan Billy Maurya, former CEO of Saregama and author Apurna Pal, and the national spokesperson of the Congress Party, Randeep Singh Surjewala. Mr. Maanas is contributing professional artists to the prestigious online portals and has featured alongside giants like Emma Hussain and Esad Raza in the promotions of these portals. His works have featured in the anniversary edition of Outlook Traveler and the National Geographic website. In 2016, he was honored by the Doon Citizen Council with the prestigious Pride of Doon Award for his contribution to art. Mr. Maanas Lal is also a writer and writes a column titled Broad Brush for Himachal Times every Sunday. Mr. Maanas also contributes his designs to a Los Angeles-based fashion brand. The most interesting part of his journey was that he left his job at a company like Infosys to pursue his artistic dream. Not just this, he has also learned vocal Hindustani classic music and also plays guitar. He also has a personal gallery at his residence on Rajpur Road. I would now request Nazia ma'am to please take it forward from here. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Zabir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Alok and Maanas. It's a real pleasure to have you here. Also because this is a very special WIC talk. This is the first time we're doing a father-son duo. And it is a proud moment for WIC too, and for Dehradun to showcase a father-son duo who's an example of many things, which is what we will discover in today's talks. I want to open today's talk with a poem that Maanas wrote and which struck me very deeply. This is his poem. The you I lost in the truths I kept. The me I lost in the lies I told. The you I lost in the love I hid. The me I lost in the lust I showed. The you I lost in the me I chose. The me I lost in the you I lost. That's a beautiful poem, Maanas. Alok, Maanas, I'm going to open the floor out to you to share your journey. Your journey as a father, Maanas, your journey as a son, being your father's son, being artists, writers, and also for you, Alok, it's a very distinct journey from being a serving police officer, having traversed a very different career, and then now holding a son's hand and being in a journey with him as an artist. So I'd like to open the floor to you to share your journey with our audiences here. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazia, and thank you so much for the generous introduction. So as tradition has it, elder should start, so I'm talking first. I am, we just heard the formal introduction of Aloke Lal, and this is something most of you know that he has been a cop, he is an artist now. But for me, the Aloke Lal I know And the reason we share this bond is because of the human aspects of Aloke Lal, the person that he is. And the father-son equation stems from the fact that he has given me absolute freedom as a son. I think I am fortunate that I have the license to be crazy. And it is my crazy ideas and my craziness in general that kind of translates into whatever I do. Then I am also very fortunate that people like you who have come here very kindly on this Republic Day weekend have been kind enough to appreciate my work and give me so much love. My father is somebody who I have seen through highs and lows in life. During his service, every time when there was a crisis he was facing, professionally or otherwise, his go-to thing was art. The place where he found solace, the place where he felt most at home. Whenever in trouble, he used to, even if it was 10 or 15 minutes, during a communal riot maybe in some city, he used to come back home and do a small painting, a sketch or something. And his emotions on the day came out on that canvas. And since we are so close to each other, so I could make out what he's doing. He has known me for, say, 27 years, but I have known him all my life, as they often say. So I could make out what he was trying to say through those works of art. And, well, he had his own reasons for joining a government service, and he did exceedingly well in it. But it was the artistic side of his personality which always inspired me more. And the fact that he gave me the freedom to, go against the tradition of the family, which is very much government service oriented, and do something which I like to do, is something I'm very grateful for. I must mention here that all of what I'm saying has my mother also, so it's very much a trio. And thank you, Mom. This equation is so special to me in many ways. We have a lot of disagreements. On the face of it, many people come and ask me, my friends come and ask me, that yaar ye dosti itni hai ki koi ladai to hoti nahi, kuch pata hi nahi chalta. But behind the scenes we fight a lot. And I say a lot of terrible things to him, he says a lot of terrible things to me. But I cannot remember a single terrible thing he said to me. As in, it just happens and we forget our differences in say 5 minutes. And that has been a hallmark of our equation. There is no baggage we are carrying as such. And so perhaps this lack of baggage, the freedom Papa has given me, kind of makes me the person I am, and is pretty much the foundation on which I am standing, my art is standing, and my love for everything good in life is standing.
Hello. 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 Thank you, Maanas, and thank you, Nazia, for having called us over for this. Yes, of course, Maanas has done a very good job of scratching my back. And why should I not return the favor? So, saying this is something that I say with great happiness, because to have somebody like him, whose back needs no scratching from me, because he has received so many accolades from so many quarters, that even if I do not go singing about them, a lot of you know about him. So, having said this, I am lucky to have a son who is more like a friend to me than a son. And the number of years that separate us sometimes do appear to be wrong. We should have been siblings, possibly. Maanas was a little different right from the beginning. And if I say that this is Maanas, my son, and I am Alok, his father, there should be. There should be it. Because what else do you have to say about it? That he is my son and I am his father. And of course, the two have got to team up, two have got to go ahead together. But why he was different from the beginning is that he was very attentive to what was being said to him. He had his own take on almost everything that was said to him. He had his own ideas. He thought differently, he spoke differently, he writes columns in language which is so different from the language that I use. His painting, his photography is also different. That while we are together as close can be, we are also very different in this aspect of expressing ourselves artistically. So it's perhaps a good thing that I have somebody at home who is always there to tell me what is going wrong with me. Of course, this officially is a job done by the better half. But Maanas joined forces with my wife to make sure that I was always told what was going wrong. And so that is something that helps, that helps any individual to grow. And the other thing that happened with Maanas is that he never let me feel that I have now reached a stage where I should call myself old. I'm still not prepared to call myself old. To tell myself that I am old and I look old, I grew this beard and made sure that I did not use a dye here. Now, but I must say it's Maanas' inspiration that made me grow this beard. I was initially very hesitant. Madhu, my wife, was not at all in favor of it. A lot of my friends, some of whom are sitting here, initially said, "Dekh lo, aisa hi hai." And then I started having some friends coming over and saying, "Take the same angle which I was taking." So that is how it began. But now it is the other way around. When he is taking a photograph, I quietly go close to him and take a photograph where he is taking, because I know he picks his angles beautifully. So I do hope that his angles will help me. But then what happens, Nazia, is that ultimately the two photographs turn out to be very different. Some of these images that you're seeing here are photographs and paintings. The one that you just saw, this was Tom Walter, which I had photographed. This is Maanas' gallery. So all these activities keep both of us engaged in creativity all the time. And this would not have happened had Maanas not been a companion in doing this. So thank you very much, Maanas, for being there and helping me out in remaining young at heart. Thank you so much.
It's interesting that you say I'm the inspiration for your beard, because I can't grow a beard. I mean, it just doesn't happen. But yeah, thank you so much. Just one thing I wanted to add is that, he's a person who wants to help people. He has this inherent sympathy in him, and that is something I've learned from him. That is not a quality I had in him. And I think that reflects across everything I do. And that is something I really admire him for. I think our bond is also based on this very important aspect of learning from each other. Not just technically, as he was talking about. Yeah, not just technically, but also emotionally. I think the emotional bond we share is a lot more important than the techniques of art we discuss or any other thing. And so, I am grateful to have parents who have given me the freedom to be crazy, as I specified earlier.
May your craziness grow.
The thing about your lives that strike out most for me, when I observe you as a father-son duo, Alok is his own person, Maanas is his own person. And yet there is this syncretism between the two of you. Something unique has come out of the relationship between the two of you. What strikes me the most is this idea that we talk about a lot, especially in today's socio-political context, our cultural context, but we don't have examples to look at. I'm talking about the idea of liberalism. So when I look at the two of you, the idea that strikes to me is, here is an example really of a liberal family. A liberal man's son, and a liberal son, liberal citizens, a liberal father, a liberal thinker, a liberal artist, a liberal musician. So you bring life to so many connotations and so many paradigms when one imagines this term and this idea of liberalism. The reason why this strikes out to me so much is because in North India especially, where we live, a father-son relationship is often understood as the most complex relationship that can ever be. And I think generations have passed where fathers did not speak to their sons, or sons were never friends with their fathers. And here you are, where you're happy to be with each other. And Maanas is a young boy, and most teenage children, especially sons, want to be really far away from their parents, from their fathers especially. And most sons have a very special bond with their mother, which also you do have. So what I want to know from you, Alok, has there been a conscious effort in your life to move from the conservative and to adopt the liberal? What has really been your journey to be this liberal person you are, to let go of traditions, but you keep a lot of traditions too. You have the tradition of music, which is a very strong tradition.
Nazia, yes, it is indeed one of those things which you inherit in a family. And I was one of 8 siblings. So you can understand the kind of family that my parents brought up. And I wouldn't be surprised that at times my father would not have known if I was going from class 8 to 9 or from 9 to 10. So that was the kind of forced distance that was maintained by him. But now that the families are so much smaller, you have just one child, some have 2. Very rarely do you find any more than 2 these days. So the bonding has got to be stronger. And therefore that strong possibility of trying to dominate somebody who's younger to you and is considered to be lesser in relationship than you, a son is supposed to follow the father's orders. These were things which never really appealed to me. And so I was glad that Maanas as a student never gave me any trouble. Never made me a worried father, because he was a good student, maintained his good levels in studies, and I never had to tell him to baith ke padho. On the other hand, when he was in class 10, I thought, when Maanas said to me one day कि पापा सबके पेरेंट्स बच्चों से पूछते हैं कि पढ़ाई कैसी चल रही है, आप उससे ये क्यों पूछते हैं कि टेनिस कैसा चल रहा है या क्रिकेट कैसा चल रहा है? So this is how I was brought up in my family, that the parents left us to ourselves, gave us the opportunities and the openings that any child needs, but then thereafter the world was to be faced by us as individuals. And I thought that gave me a lot of strength to stand up in times of adversities also. Maanas might have faced a lot of competition at all levels, but the good thing that I saw in him was that he was up for a fight, up to face any challenges that came his way. And luckily he made a set of friends very close to him, who continue to be his very close friends from school days, who keep him company today. That shows that he has been able to win hearts at that level, and they have continued to be with him. So these are things, I think, talking of liberalism, now I did not know any other way really. If I wanted to control him, I would have needed to control myself a lot. Because when you want to control somebody, you can always expect an answer कि Dad आप तो ये कर रहे हैं और मुझे रोक रहे हैं. So one would have been led to live a very controlled life oneself. And as he said, crazy किया रे, he wanted to be crazy. And I'm glad that he said that I let him go crazy. And as I said a little earlier, jitna chaho crazy ho jao, I'm there with you in all the craziness.
Maanas, is your father crazy? Did you inherit any craziness from him?
A part of it, because I think I'm crazier, but the family on both sides, as in my mom's family and my dad's family, Diwane log hai. And that kind of is the way we live. So liberalism is something which comes very naturally to me.
How do you define it? Like, what is, because to him, he said, that's the only way of life he knows. And he doesn't know any other, so he's not adhering to a definition, but somehow we picked up the traits and we know that that's a pattern. How has it been for you? Because you grew up in a different generation, watching a different dynamic around you.
So while I was in this protected environment at home, then this is something I have to acknowledge, because for the initial maybe 15-20 years of my life, I did not spend much time away from home. And so I was living in a limited environment where I thought the world functions in a particular way. Everybody is liberal, people say good things to each other, and at the end of the day, it's a happy ending to every story. Then I went to do my first job. And that is where I started seeing how people actually are. And that liberalism is not the norm. In fact, I am very much an exception in this big bunch of people. I am an odd man out. I think differently. I started feeling suffocated to an extent, because it was a difficult thing to realize that, okay, this is how the world actually is. And then we are a bunch of crazy people who are different. But slowly, I realized the happiness that comes from being liberal. Even when others around you can't see what you can. And honestly, I think that is what art is also all about. Seeing things which others don't. And so for me, liberalism is a very personal thing. And my liberalism, I cannot say it stems from him. I cannot say it stems from my family. I think it's a very personal thing. I feel like I am a liberal person. I feel good about it. And to say that it comes from here or there will not really be right, because I don't know. And that is, I think, the one thing that stands out about being liberal. You often don't know why you are liberal, why you are a particular way, but then that is my way of life. That is the only way I know how to live.
Is there a mother in your father? Have you ever felt that your father is also a mother?
There's definitely a father in my mother. Because there was somebody needed to cancel out the liberalism also. But
so your mother is more the patriarch. So is there a feminine side to your father?
Yes, I'm sure there is. I mean, one of my friends keeps telling me that, we are a group of people who must be having high estrogen levels. I think so it's easier in the audience. And so, yeah, that is pretty much it. I do feel like he's being mom-like sometimes. He's more the mera raja bacha hai person than mom is. Mom is the stricter person ki zindagi aise nahi aise chalti. So yes, true that he is crazy. He's mom-like. That is one of the things which makes him crazy. And yeah, that's why I think one of the reasons we share this bond is, and why it's a father-son talk, is because of this motherly instinct in him.
Look, the same question to you. You have one son. Have you ever seen a daughter in Maanas? Do you see a daughter in him?
I wish I could. Because if I was asked an option, and Maanas was told this by his mom, that I wanted a daughter. So when he was born, I was a bit disappointed. But the good thing is that he's doing all that a son does, plus all that a good daughter does.
What does a good daughter do?
So
what is a good daughter?
The good daughter side is that he is not the kind who would be away at night and give me all kinds of problems, so the daughter is away and one doesn't know what's happening with her, especially in the conditions that prevail in our country these days. And then I also feel that he looks after me with that softness that you expect from a daughter. Recently, I had a very unusual experience of my pet dog biting me. And that bite was not an ordinary bite, it was quite a big bite. And so I was laid up for some time. And that is when I saw the daughter in him. He was by my side, seeing to it that my medication was given to me in time, and so on. So these are some of those aspects that I think come from a daughter, and he is fulfilling them.
Why is Maanas not a police officer, Alok? Why is Maanas not a police officer? And I ask this sarcastically because there is a tradition in India where...
I can see your sarcasm in what you said, and I am glad you have that in you. Yes, I am so glad that he is not a police officer. I think that I am not happy with what I did. I am so glad that I worked in the police, I worked in the Indian Police Service, I was in a position to help a lot of people, serve people in general, and the career in itself was quite magnificent. I enjoyed every bit of it. But then he had his freedom. There's something that the Dalai Lama has said, and I read this after Maanas had taken the decision, so don't give this credit to Dalai Lama, but what he said was that if you love somebody, give him wings, but grow roots, so that should he like to come back, he knows where the roots are, and then can find his place in the roots. So I am glad that he had his wings, he flew, he saw the world, he thought of appearing for the civil services. The fact is that he did think about it, and finally he saw that the civil services have their own negatives and not his cup of tea, because he had served in a corporation for 2 years and he saw that the kind of restrictions that were placed on an individual's creativity, even in private corporations, that he thought would be multiplied several times in government jobs. So that's why he's not a cop. But don't forget, he's a cop. He doesn't let me ever have the third drink, you know.
Just to add to that, to be honest, I grappled with all these options when I was looking for what I want to do in life. I did a couple of years of work with Infosys, then I grappled with the option of joining the civil services. I still think for the youngsters who want to take it up, the civil services is a great option. But it was not for me. I have always held this as a principle that I want to be happy. The only aim in my life is happiness. And the one place which was always giving me happiness was my art. When I am with a canvas in front of me, when I am taking a photograph, or when I am writing, that's my happy space. Even if I am writing something which is extremely sad, that is where I am truly at home. And so that is one of the reasons maybe I am not a cop. But yeah, I mean, to all those who want to become cops, you must, I have all respect for the profession.
So, we still live in a society where there are a lot of taboos, and art is still not considered as a serious profession. You know, we live in a society where people think that one becomes a lawyer because he had nothing better to do and he could not excel in other professions or a better profession. So have you ever faced that question, Alok, where people around you, the family or friends, they talk well in front of you and then they go behind the scenes and go, "What's wrong with Alok? Why is his son an artist?" You know, have you ever faced a situation like that? Were there traumas? Was there a difficult time, or were there difficult times when you try to give your son wings and the society does not understand the basis for those wings, the need for those wings, and does not agree with the idea that children need to be given wings?
You are hinting at a very structured life where somebody else calls the shots, you are happy. Somebody tells you to be in the office at 10 o'clock in the morning, you go there punctually. You are supposed to work till 5, maybe 6 or sometimes 8 also. That's fine. So these so many hours are spent in doing something for somebody else. Satisfaction in such situations can be when you are doing that work for a government which is actually serving the people. Unfortunately, our governments, well, let it be okay. Now coming to the second part of the question. Yes, not just behind my back, but even in front of me, people say, "Kahan ye isko artist bana diya? Isko to civil service mein bhejiye. He'll do very well as an IAS officer. He'll be wonderful as a cop." Yes, maybe he will be. Maybe he will do well in those professions also. But to my mind, what is most important is that he should be given the freedom to what he wants to do.
Yes.
He is an artist at heart. He wants to create artistic work. He wants to see the world with his pair of glasses. Let him do that. Why force him to wear a mantle which doesn't suit him, doesn't appeal to him, and will keep him shackled for the rest of his life? So this is what I try to explain to people. Although a lot of people think that the decision to become an artist is not a very wise decision. He should have joined a job somewhere and he would have done painting otherwise. But from my own experience, Nazia, I can tell you, it's good to serve. I had come up from a different circumstance. I needed a job, so I had to do a job. If I was in this condition that taking a job immediately was not a necessity, possibly I would have also ventured into this kind of life. So he's lucky that in this age and time, now he can think of careers which are away from the very formal careers that everybody seems to be going for. And don't you see every day the kind of bad competition that is happening amongst youngsters to get into jobs? And some of these coaching institutions, or what goes on there. My feeling is that I'm glad that he decided to come back and do what he wanted to do. And it's good that he likes being crazy. I am also glad that my son is crazy.
Youngsters today have immense pressure from their parents, from the society, and also self-driven to pursue success. But also, success is a lot of times correlated with the money that you make. Worried you, Maanas? The fact that you may never make money as an artist. Have you ever thought about it? Has that, or maybe you're fortunate to not be in that position now, but has there ever been an insecurity? Why I ask this question is, a lot of parents, when they try to tell their children what to do, this is always the governing force behind their back, Son, you're not going to make any money. I recognize your art, I recognize your talent, you want to be a writer, you want to be a poet, you want to be a sports person, but you're not going to make any money, and I worry, because as a father, as a mother, it's my job to tell you and guide you to do that which will make you successful. So has that ever worried you? Has that ever been, how have you dealt with that?
It has not worried me per se, but people around me have often spoken to me about this. For example, my mom for a long period of time did ask me this question. यार तुम सोचते नहीं हो कमाओगे कहाँ से? And to be honest, he was talking about safe professions and dharre pe chalna. Life is so uncertain that even when you are within safe circumstances, it throws stuff at you which you can't handle. And I had to take a gamble for my own happiness. I have said this in my previous answer also, that happiness is the only aim I have in life. And I was not happy doing anything else. Yes, I might have earned a little more money elsewhere. And maybe my art doesn't give me the same returns in terms of my bank account. But as far as my satisfaction, my happiness, my life, and my love for everything in general, goes, it all comes from this choice. And this is the choice I had to make. Otherwise, I would not have been myself. I did not want to live somebody else's life just because they thought that was the right way of doing something. And I still hear this every day. This concern is not something which comes up in my head now. And fortunately, things have gone all right. But people keep asking me this question even today. What if tomorrow people stop buying your paintings? What if tomorrow you lose your talent? That is the I don't know, but people do have this concern also. कल अगर idea आने बंद हो गए तो क्या होगा? What I have to say is that these are gambles you have to take in life. I chose to take one. To all those people who want to take this on as a profession, I'll be honest, there is a risk. There is a big risk you run. You can go drastically wrong. Success as defined in worldly terms is monetary to a large extent, so they will look at you differently. But it's more about how you feel, how successful you feel. And for me, success is not in the money you make. Success is in the love you have for the people around you, the love you have for your own self, the happiness within. And of course, then money is somewhere in this picture, a part of it. It's important, undoubtedly important, but not the overwhelming concern. And I think that is another thing which comes from the fact that my father always told me that, look for your happy space. Try and achieve happiness. My mom also said, and still says always, that, unless you are happy in life, we will never be happy in life. And I have this basic duty towards my parents also to be happy in life. And the only way I can do that.
So much pressure on you.
Yeah, so much. That's the pressure.
I must add here, as a father, the question does come, will come from your future father-in-law and mother-in-law. कि लड़का करता क्या है? So this is a question which is not easily answered when you say वो तो artist है.
That's true. I wonder if matrimony websites have that option in profession. I think it's others and then you don't even have an others.
Writing a matrimonial for him will be tough.
But it's true. It's true. My brother is an artist, and my father doesn't know how to fill a matrimonial column for him because he's an artist. So I understand. आपने बोला कि आपके फैमिली में कुछ दीवानापन है, दीवाने लोग हैं, बावले लोग हैं. So I read some of your articles, and my instinct, my feeling was कि ये कुछ पुराने ज़माने के बच्चा है. He's an old man, an old soul, and an old person in a young man's body. कुछ बहुत सारे पुराने तहज़ीब, पुरानी हिंदी फिल्मों से प्यार. The movies that he's written about, or movies that I heard my father talk about. तो कुछ ऐसे तहज़ीब आपके, there's a line of tradition that is passing through you, in your love of cinema, in your love of music, is what I understood from reading what Maanas wrote. But also when you have a conversation with Maanas अक्सर पुरानी हिंदी गानों को कोट करते हैं मिसाल के तौर पे. So that fascinates me. ये जो पुराना होना, being old, without knowing that you're old, it's एक ज़माना बीत गया, उस ज़माने की तहज़ीब थी. इस तरीके की तहज़ीब अब देखने को नहीं मिलती, because people have departed from that language of music, that language of love, that language of respect for relationships. Have you ever felt a difference when you interact with your peers? When you quote these old songs, do they look at you and go, Maanas, kya bol rahe ho? We don't know what you're talking about. Do you feel a gap? Is there a generation gap within the youngsters of your own generation? That is my question.
I have had this great fortune of interacting with people. My parents, had me when they were 40 years of age or so. And so I was a late child in that sense. Therefore, the age difference was substantial. And so their choices, what they taught me, the music I heard because of them, was largely music which was from another generation. And the same is true about my uncles. I'm largely influenced by them in my musical choices and cinematic choices also. So they did have a profound impact on me in the years I was growing up in. And then there was something beautiful which happened to me, which is friendship. I made friends in school who had different views. I did feel the generation gap at that time. But now in the long run it has become some kind of an advantage. Because I am somebody who is comfortable in company which is much older than me and with company which is much younger than me. So this is one good thing which has come out of having this big age gap. So as opposed to a generation gap, I feel I am very close to both generations. And I have taken things from both generations. And I love modern music too. I am largely influenced by what happens these days. But then there is one thing which I have to point out, that some of my best friends are also people who are old people in young bodies. And so they connect with me at a different level. For instance, I can't stand loud music. And that is something my generation absolutely loves. So partying at New Year for me is quite a problem. So yaar, tum cool nahi ho. Wala kafi hota hai mere saath. But then the artist thing kind of balances it, because जबकि profession तो भाई बड़ा unsafe है, लेकिन cool है. So kind of clicks with this generation. And yes, I do sometimes feel that my generation should be a little more exposed to what they are leaving behind, because there is so much to learn from the old world, as they call it. There is so much knowledge, there is so much to see in terms of the cinema, the music, all fine art, the paintings. To think that yaar, हमारा generation सबसे अच्छा है, we are the well-informed youth and we'll change the world. That's a good thing. But we are leaving a lot behind. And in my opinion, too much behind. Something like liberalism is also being left behind. And so, my being liberal also comes from the fact that I am an old soul living in a body. And yeah, so I do feel the generation gap, but it's something which has stopped bothering me. I am at home with it, and I do realize I'll meet a lot of people who will not connect with me. And maybe I'll meet some people who I'll have to make an extra effort to connect with. But then it's all worth it in the end. After all, as human beings, you're talking about, we have to live together and be liberal with each other.
You have an old soul in a young body here, and a young soul in an old body.
So that's how the friendship works. You make him feel young, he makes you feel old.
You asked this question about music. I must tell you, I used to be in a very busy job, and so when he was very young, say in his earlier school days, I couldn't spend time with him, definitely no quality time. And so it was a pleasure to travel with him in a car from one place to another. And within UP, distances are pretty much. You can take 5 to 6 hours to go from one town to another town in UP. And so I always had that music player in my car. And luckily at that point in time at least, I could play the songs of my choice. And so those usually were Mohammed Rafi and Kishore Kumar and such other numbers. So he had no choice but to listen to those. Maybe that dose, that kadwa dawa is still working, because he loves these two artists, he loves the artists I like. He also developed a lot of liking for classical music. And so much so that later on he learned classical music here, formally. And so Hindustani classical music is something which really works well with him.
It's apparent that your son has inherited a lot from you and has learned a lot from you. Have you learned what have you learned in your journey with your son? What are your learnings?
If I were to list my best teachers, I think he'll be at the top. I told you that he has a strong influence on me, so much so that he will not let me go to the third drink. So he has a strong influence. And the other influences he has had is that his value system is extremely strong. He never allows any compromises on that. And if he feels that I am compromising somewhere, let's say on delivery of a quality product, let us say, he will tell me that no, this is not good enough, this will not go ahead. You have to make sure that it has to be of the top quality. So his concern for being true to what he is saying is very important. His principle stands on most things. One of the things that has happened of late is that my political views don't match with anybody these days. I'm 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million perhaps, whose political views are those that do not go with most others. But I have a friend here whose political views are the same as mine. So, no, he gives me the strength there to remain with what I feel is right.
What if the contrary happens? What if your political views differ or start differing?
No problems, no problems. If I change, maybe he will have problems, but if he changes, I'll have no problems. Honestly, because it's a stake on his life.
Have you ever faced a situation where you've been immensely angry? Angry at your son, angry at your friend?
As he said in the initial introduction, anger is an emotion which hardly ever bothers me too much. I don't know why, but this particular wiring which takes place from the brain to other places, which makes you an angry man, never was there. And when I used to like, when I saw my films and loved actors, there was no angry young man in films. So maybe I did not make myself like one of those big heroes to be an angry young man. So I never became an angry old man. Maybe he knows better whether I'm an angry old man or not. But then, no, anger never ended.
Maanas, have you ever been in a situation where you're angry at your father, really angry, and have you had a situation like that?
That happens every day. I am a very hard taskmaster, as you pointed out. But see, the thing is that one instance I can vividly remember is the first time I liked a girl, he did not approve of my choice. So I was livid, I should have the freedom to say what I feel and I should have the freedom to choose the person I want. And he said, I have the freedom to tell you my opinion. And he ultimately allowed me to go ahead with that relationship, which unfortunately didn't work out, so he was right maybe. But, the thing about him is that he does not let you remain angry for too long. His personality is such that I can't remain angry with my father. It just doesn't come to me. I have to go and talk to him some or the other time. It's not in me to remain angry with him for too long. Because at the end of the day, I owe him too much. I'm too grateful to him and my mother for all that they have given me. This beautiful life they have given me, all this freedom they have given me, the opportunities they have given me. There's no way that I can, I don't like using the word repay, but there is no way that I can even come close to the kind of love I have received from them. So to say that I am permanently angry with my dad, and that's not happening. Just not happening.
What a beautiful thing you've said. Because there are many lawyers, Kaljit sir is here, Advocate Rub's here. So if you just look at the homes, the large homes, from one end of Rajpur Road to the other end of Rajpur Road, you have angry sons litigating their fathers who have not found it in their hearts to be grateful for the large bungalows and still have to fight, So this might sound trivial, but there's so much depth in the fact that people have not been able to revert to the blessings around, the fortune around, the privilege around. And we're all very privileged people sitting here. And there are a lot of people who do not have the privilege of a happy upbringing, the security of social capital. You know, being in a group, being with a group of people who are familiar with you and will not immediately hate you, will not have an immediate judgment against you, and yet even if they do, you still are in a room with those people without them killing you. You know, so we represent a privileged trader of the India we are in today. And even in that, we don't find a lot of people like you who within the family have found the hearts to accept and be grateful for the very little that they have together, or for the large privilege that they have together. So what you've said is very beautiful, and I hope a lot of people listen to it. A lot of people hear the story, hear the message. Because as you mentioned it very subtly, but the message is really strong. There is a lot to be grateful for. Where's the time to be angry? Where is the time to be angry, really? Poetry is another thing that I wanted to discuss with you. So, you know, you have this Einstein who's an artist and a photographer and a poet. So where does poetry come from? Where does poetry take its roots? Do you have a memory, a distinct memory of reading a poem with your father, or your father telling you about a particular poet, or vice versa?
You know, the one person I remember the most when somebody talks about my poetry, and I miss him a lot, is my eldest Tauji. Because I had the good fortune of...
This Tauji was Dr. Pramod Lal, an Urdu poet, and he taught English literature, and he was a professor of English. So he's the one he's mentioning.
So, not just in my poetry, but in all my writing, I think the one major influence I have had in my life is him, because he had the ability to interpret more than I could interpret out of my writing, to tell me where I am going wrong from a reader's perspective, to tell me where I am going wrong from a writer's perspective, to tell me where I am going wrong from a technical perspective. So, you know, that shaped me into the writer I am today, whatever little I know. And the poetry then started to happen, because I was very inspired by him, and I gave up the idea of writing Urdu poetry very early in life, because I just don't have the talent for it, to be honest. Even though people around me are Urdu poets. And when I write poetry, he keeps telling me कि यार तुम ना इतने खराब शेर कहते हो कि भाई मतलब this is not poetry.
Do you read and write Urdu? Are you familiar?
I am familiar with the language, thanks to the fact that the family is so closely associated with Urdu, and all my Tawajis are Urdu poets. So as he said, वो जो कड़वा घोल रफ़ी साहब और किशोर दा का भी है, वो उर्दू का भी अपने आप, that was a part of my upbringing. And so why I come back to Tauji here is because he was the one person who spoke to me about poetry in English, about poems he had read, about what influenced him in life, the writers that influenced him. And that is how I started taking interest in English poetry. And he still tells me, यार poem मुझे मत पढ़ो, मुझे नहीं पता. I don't know if it's good or not. For everything else I can go to him, but for this is the one thing where my feedback is directly from the audience. So, pretty much. But yeah, my Tauji is the one person I would like to give maximum credit for this. He is the reason I am able to write any poetry in English.
People think that, again, this would be generalizing, but poetry, art, or painting, photography, एक चल रही है, you know, like hobby चल रही है, कुछ activity चल रही है. But कहीं ना कहीं people miss this, that if you have a son who can write and who can paint and who can photograph, what you have really given the world is a free child. A child who feels free and fearless enough to articulate everything that he feels. What you've really given him is what Rabindranath Tagore's poem says, you know. What you've given him is the idea of fearlessness.
Indeed, I'm so glad you said this because I did not know that this was so. And I'm so glad that my child is spoken of in these words as you have used. It's really very high praise for anybody. If he is doing well in these things, and you think that the credit in a way goes to me also for having given a person like him to the society, I'm very grateful. Thank you very much.
No, I'm also grateful to, like I said, this is a very special talk because society needs examples. Especially our contemporary society needs examples of relationships where authority is redefined. You know, you've been in a position of authority all your life till you retired. You understand the power of authority more than anybody else, and yet you chose not to impose that on your son. You know, that's the one realm most parents try to impose authority on their children. You know, here's what I'm going to show you what I am made of, you know. Children have become spaces for parents to showcase their strength or to demonstrate their power. It's a power field. And that's what you've broken down. And in breaking that down, what you have given the world, this community, is an example of, you know, power. Real power does not really lie in control or raising a child in an atmosphere of fear. Any kind of fear. Your son doesn't have fear of financial insecurity because it's not in his radar. It's not in his radar. And it could be, I'm sure you've had your difficult times, and I'm sure people don't know what happens in your homes. But yet, there is an atmosphere of fearlessness that you have given your child. And I hope that's also a message that people here take back to their homes.
So it's a very good way of putting it indeed. And I must say that as for myself, I can say that I was an artist who was trapped in a police uniform. And so I outwardly would appear to be a policeman, but actually inside I was an artist. In his case, he is trained to be an engineer, but he did not allow that engineering outfit to douse the artist in him. So he has allowed the artist to be born on his sleeve. Everybody can see that he is an artist. But the fact is that he is also a very competent, very talented engineer. And if you may like to elaborate on this, my feeling is that he is succeeding as a creative artist in a very big way because he knows how to use the computer better than most of us. Maybe you'd like to elaborate on this. So in his case, the artist is up front while the engineer is inside.
And speaking of authority, at our house there's only one person who has all the authority, which is mom. So this duo is completely in our control. And yeah, he spoke about my engineering background. It certainly does help me in what I do. And as you rightly pointed out, I'm glad you said fearless because I usually associate this word with MS Dhoni and I'm a big fan. But that's true, entirely true, that my father and my mother both allowed me to fearlessly say what I want to, believe in what I want to, even when it was not what they believed in me. And that is the beauty of it all actually. A lot of what I say and a lot of what I think is different from what they believe in. And the fearlessness to be able to express it even within the four walls of my house, all the time, to be different, is something I'm very grateful for.
Do you argue a lot?
A lot. And with everybody who knows me well. I love arguing. And you know, there are some arguments which are endless. For example, the arguments with my mom, because they are largely based on emotion and not logic. So we reach nowhere. When I argue with dad,
What are the issues that you argue with your mother over?
शादी आजकल आजकल that is the central theme. शादी कब करोगे? But yeah, we argue sometimes in politics, sometimes on why.
Do you have differing political views?
At times, yes. For example, at the time when this art movement was very strong, my mom was an ardent supporter, and I had a different viewpoint, and we used to argue a lot. And she was this big Kejriwal fan. I was like, "Yeah, ये तो muffler पे कैसे लगेगा?" So we had our own opinions, and I did not like him. She liked him, and yeah, that happens all the time. We have had different political views, maybe not as far as the macro picture is concerned, but then those micro arguments are always happening between us. Also, we have different viewpoints on almost everything. And that is why I think our art is also very different. One of the reasons our art is different is this. We usually argue on matters related to sports because that is something we really bond in. Then our artistic arguments can get really, really bad. We can just say, "Kuch nahi aata aapko," you know, and this is it. I mean, your ideas are all wrong, and we can't collaborate any longer. And I say something like this. And then
So you have a divorce every day?
Oh yes, absolutely. And yeah, so but as I said, it's difficult to remain angry.
Have you ever left home? Have you ever had a, because this happens in matrimonial relationships.
No,
when
that happened
young
long back.
couple.
That happened long back. When I was a small kid, I was तेल लगाने का बड़ा शौक होता है माओं को, and I used to hate it. So my mom wanted me to put some kind of oil in my hair, and I said मैं घर छोड़ के जा रहा हूँ. And when I was halfway to the gate, she said, "ऐसे चप्पल तो पहन के चले जाओ." But yeah, I have often thrown these tantrums, and they have been tolerant enough to always accept me back. I have thrown all sorts of tantrums and created a lot of havoc at home. That is a contribution I have made, definitely.
The good thing is, that in most these cases where there is slight unpleasantness somewhere or the other, we end up singing together. That is the grand finale to a bad evening sometimes. That both of us.
And I know Mr. Lal and Maanas quite well. But there is one point which I also approve, and I approve strongly, is that as Maanas said, that the only concern that he has is for happiness. I can tell, it's not a question, but there's a line as it goes that inner happiness is fuel of success. And some of the people here in the audience, or they have also mentioned concern for wealth, or how he has to look forward, or if he goes short of so-called wealth. Well, I can say wealth is nothing, but it grows out of this word which he has mentioned, happiness. If you have enough of happiness in yourself, you develop such a powerful self that whatever you wish will come to you, and your surrounding has no option but to accept it, but to reward the surrounding will like to reward itself by approving what the person wants who is in the happiness state, because that is the finest aim of the evolution. Thank you.
Things have been said by Maanas about Aloke Chacha, and a lot of observations have been made by people over the years. But what I feel is that somehow one has missed the point that he has not only been an excellent father, he has also been a pillar of strength to the entire family. He's been an excellent younger brother, an excellent older brother. I've seen him looking after the younger siblings in the most amazing way. The way he stands by all of us, and the way he has, we came here, like me and my sister are here in Dehradun. My parents were not here for very long, but we never felt that somebody is missing. He was always our go-to person, and he continues to be. In fact, for the last 30 years, he's been my go-to person whenever I have to take any advice. And we are really lucky to have him in the family. It's not just Maanas who is lucky, it's all of us who are very lucky.
This is Ruchi told all of you that she's already 30. Why did you do that?
I'll just pick up from what Ruchi said. I said this as part of his introduction, that this ability of his, to be able to handle so many relationships and yet make each one of them feel wanted is something I'm still trying to inherit, trying to understand, trying to develop. And I'm falling way short, honestly. So, but this is one of those things which I really admire him for. And I think, a lot of my writing these days is based on trying to understand how others think, because I think that is one of the qualities which he has, which I do not. And so, I'm trying to get there.
Empathy.
And I'm very glad that Ruchi Didi said this. Very glad. It's are two great Jijaji for me to really choose between two forms of art. Writing is an art, so is painting. And it'll be too unjust on my part to say whether I should be known in one art or the other. And honestly, I'm not in this for the fame. I'll be very honest with you. I am in this for the happiness. If fame comes my way, I'll be very glad. Writing, painting, poetry, or otherwise, that's fine. But I just want...
I'll put it another way. Which one of it will give you more happiness?
Yeah, let me rephrase this question. When Ustad Amjad Ali Khan was here, I asked him, Ustad Sahab, do you sing? He told me, I sing through my sitar. Yeah, through a sarod, yeah. Through a sarod. He's a sarod player, sorry, yes. So he said, I sing, but I sing through my instrument. So I think that's a question he wants to ask you.
So I think when I talk about the general state of happiness, which art gives me, I'm talking about all art. And my happy space is art. And that's all I can say actually. I cannot choose between arts. It's just not possible for me. Art is too great a thing for me to even talk about it. That we are having this talk is great. But to say that I will choose writing over photography or writing gives me more satisfaction is untrue. I don't think, as long as I feel happy with what I have achieved, which is almost never the case.
So it's in the moment. Art is in the moment. Yeah.
I firmly believe in living in the moment, and the present tense is the only tense which pretty much matters to me. So if I am making a painting, or I am photographing, or I am writing, that is the thing which is giving me happiness.
Are the two you would like to be known in the world over to have excelled better? Writing or painting?
I would like to believe I am, even though many girls tell me I'm very boring.
You should not say that out in public. You just eliminated a lot of proposals that may have come your way.
I told you now, such bullying bimari. But the fact is that, yes, I would like to believe I'm romantic. Particularly the kind of literature I read does make me think like a romantic. I am unable to express myself as a romantic. Where that comes out again is in one or the other form of art. Not in front of the girl who I want to say something to, unfortunately.